Welcome to Authentic Conversations with Maree Harris, PhD, and Gary Ryan. Hi Maree, how are you going?
Good, Gary. Good to have this going, this special event starting today.
That's fantastic. I'm very excited, as we've been discussing for some time now. And you may have noticed in the paper today the announcement from the University of Melbourne about their 450 odd redundancies that they're planning to implement commencing prior to the end of this year. And I think that totals a bit over 1,000 redundancies of ongoing, permanent and contracted staff in that space across our universities here in Victoria since the start of the pandemic. And it's just an interesting view of the world. And, I was just wondering if we wouldn't mind have a quick chat about our thoughts on maybe some different ways that the universities could approach this current situation rather than necessarily putting good people out of their organisations. What are your thoughts?
Are you suggesting, Gary, that maybe not enough authentic conversations have taken place within the university?
I'm suggesting that that's a great possibility. And given that I'm an alum of Monash University and Deakin University, and what's the list of the alums that you have?
Well, I've been to... I'm a student, ex-student of RMIT and Melbourne University, and I've been to Ballarat, and I've been to La Trobe, and I've been to ACU. So we've got a fair bit of authority between us to be commenting on what's happening in universities, I think.
Yeah, and definitely passion and care for the sector too.
Yes.
That's definitely what I know. Both of us really care for the sector, and we're very passionate about the great people that work in both the academic and non-academic services. And, an announcement like today, or yesterday rather, from the University of Melbourne, which we know the other universities have previously done. I think Deakin's in the process of 400 redundancies, and Monash has announced 270 at the start. I'm not sure what the numbers are for RMIT University or La Trobe, but every time they make these announcements, every single staff member gets nervous. And that's a bit of a pity because, in fact, the vast majority of them will keep their jobs. But in the meantime, until they know who's going and who's staying, everyone gets nervous. And it's a stressful enough time as it is right now in lockdown and isolation, etc., without having that extra load landing on people's shoulders. And you do care about people's well-being, of course. But equally, personally, I do wonder, this is a 1 in 100 year pandemic, once in 100 years. And while universities need to have a financial model, they're not businesses. They've got a greater purpose. And I mean, I've always held the view that universities' greater purpose is about advancing humankind. And they have humans who work for them.
Yes, yes.
And
just on that, this is an unprecedented event that we need to be coming forward, or all leaders need to be coming forward with some fairly creative ideas, not using the old ways of thinking to respond to this event. We need new ways of thinking. And we can't really trust the media to present the situation as it is. And we're relying on the media to report it. But the impression you get from the media is this is a discussion about dollars.
Yes.
It's not a discussion about retaining the high quality academics who are going to be the future for our learning generation or our learning community, our learning future. And I just wonder, very few leaders, in fact, I'd go as far as saying no leader today ever predicted that something like this would happen to their organisation.
No, of course not.
Loads of them had done a lot of work on what might disrupt their organisation in the future, but none of them ever anticipated this. So when it comes to providing a solution to this, doesn't matter how stellar a career that leader might have had, they're not going to be able to lead out of this by themselves. Absolutely. They need to engage their people in finding solutions. They need to have authentic conversations with their people, being transparent and open with them, inviting them to contribute ideas for how we might resolve this without making you redundant.
Yes.
And there are organisations already doing this already, and using the ideas, the insights with their people, asking them what they think. How can we do this? And you get the impression from the media that none of the universities are actually having these sort of authentic conversations.
And in fact, interestingly, being driven totally by the bottom line, which
Yes.
is fascinating, because there are for-profit organisations like the Barry Way-Miller group of organisations, $2.4 billion company, 12,000 employees. Not one of them has been stood down or made redundant as a result of this disruption.
Yes.
A company like ADP, which has got 66,000 employees working in 147 countries around the world. And Carlos Rodriguez, their CEO at the start of the pandemic earlier this year, gave every single staff member $1,000 so that they could quickly pivot to working from home. When the staff asked Carlos, do we need to give you receipts? He said, you don't need to give me a receipt. I trust you to spend that money so that you can work from home. And that within 1 week, that entire organisation earlier this year was able to pivot to working from home. It's maintained working from home the whole way through. And all its 88 million customers around the globe have had every single payroll honoured and processed by ADP during that time. Not one of them has been missed, and not one staff member of ADP has been stood down.
Yes.
Different thing. That cost $66 million US for them to do that, nearly 100 million Australian dollars. Straight away, they spent that money. They invested in their people. And, you know, of course, it makes sense on the surface that the universities have got less international students that have come to Australia due to the pandemic, therefore reduce staff numbers. On the surface, that sounds like it makes sense. But let's look at these facts. These days, academics are serving classes with over 400 students in the class. More than 50, 60 students in tutorials. That's not the academic experience that you and I had.
No, I wouldn't have had 20 in a tutorial.
Oh, me either.
Right through my academic career, I wouldn't have had 20 in any tutorial.
No, and I had no more than 100 in a lecture. You could actually, as a student, engage and have a conversation and build a relationship with the professors. We would call them professor, yes?
Yes.
And so, you know, my own eldest son, his first year at university is now in his third year, and he's changed courses partly because of this reason. He's in lectures with over 450 students, in tutorials with over 60 students. He could not build a relationship. He was just another person there presenting dollars to the institution. And I'm wondering that, what if they had a different view? What if they said, you know what, yes, it's going to cost us, but that's why we've got money in the bank. We've got, in the University of Melbourne's case, $4.6 billion in the bank. Let's invest over the next 3 years $1 billion in our staff. At the same time, it's going to cost us $1 billion. Now, that's worst case scenario. They'll still have $2.6 billion in the bank at the end of 2 years.
Yeah. We've talked before, Gary, quite a bit about, you know, organisations seeing their people as human resources. Yeah. And, you know, if people are our greatest assets, if the staff and the employees at Melbourne University are their greatest assets, why are they treating them like their greatest liabilities?
Yes.
And to invest in their people, that's the best investment any organisation can make, because that's the way they're going to get a return from their people. There's a great risk that the universities like Melbourne that are cutting their staff purely on a bottom line philosophy are going to lose the very essence of what makes them a really good organisation.
Oh, and imagine, Maree, that essence of being a really good organisation and talking about authentic leadership. Imagine if they actually came out and said, you know what, the numbers say this is what we should do from an economic rationalist viewpoint of the world. But we're not economic rationalists. We understand the bigger picture and the role that we have to humanity, which includes our staff. And that what we're going to do is we're going to do everything possible financially to keep our staff that we currently have to ride through this pandemic. If that means that we reduce academic to student ratios, which is actually better for students, it creates a better student experience. Imagine the positive impact on the brand. Imagine as the number one university, we come out and we go down a different pathway and says to everyone else in the industry, this is a pathway you could choose to do too, because it's better for society. Because what are those 450 people actually going to do over the next 18 months? Like, what jobs are they going to go into?
Yes.
Now, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but it's clearly going to be more difficult than it's been over the past 10 years for them to find another job.
Mm.
You know,
Gary, summing up this discussion today, I just think, how lucky are we to have gone to university when we did?
100%.
I mean, first of all, I completed something like 21 years in university. It cost me $500 because I didn't complete my PhD in time. I had to go an extra semester. Look, we were the privileged people who had really good university educations based on all the principles that we're talking about today. And I'm just so grateful for that.
100%.
And so sad to see what is now happening.
And look, money, there's no question money is important. I did pay HECS myself. So mine wasn't quite as cheap, but it was nonetheless some of my best friends today from university. I can tell you as a parent, I do not know a single name of one of the students that my son has friends with at university because we have not met them. It's just so different. And it does, well, I'm just not sure it has to be that different. And I'm not, pining for the old days. I'm not doing that at all. I'm just saying that right now, as you are, there is a different path. And if conversations could be different, what if they could say, you know what, let's spend the money on our people. Let's keep them there. Let's actually even more so than ever improve the student experience for the students who got. Let's focus on the students we have got, not focus on the ones we don't. The ones that can't get here, they're not here. Let's make it even better for the ones that are here so that our brand, when we come out the other end, and there will be the other end, won't there?
Yes.
That brands will be better off.
Yes.
We should probably wind it up now, but it's always great speaking with you, Maree.
Yes, Gary, and hopefully we might make an impact today, perhaps.
Let's hope so.
I don't think we're going to change the mind of Melbourne University, but we might have an impact somewhere.
And we're only saying what we're saying because, again, we're passionate for the industry. And the
yes, we are.
Okay. Bye, Maree. Thanks for joining Maree and Gary for this authentic conversation, and we look forward to sharing the next one with you.